Hey, what's up, Jam? Jam here, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are coming at you with another RPG reading. We are still on Deadlands. We have come at you with part 2 of the Prospectors story. This is fucking long as shit. If you guys remember, my last video was like half an hour long of me reading this shit, but you guys loved it. So, we are going to keep it going. So, yeah, post the comments what you guys think about this. If you guys do remember, we ended on the Law Dogs, and which means we are now on the Templars. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, the Templars. The Law Dogs ain't the only ones fighting to make things right again. There's another group that calls themselves the Templars. After the Knights of the Crusades, these Templars aren't quite as bright and shiny as you might want them to be. They was founded by a fella named Simon Mercer. Like a lot of folks, Simon lost his family in the war and wandered around lost for a while trying to get over it. While he was wandering, he watched a law dog and other do-gooders try to protect rest folk from terrors and marauders like Throckmorton. I reckon it made him sick to watch those good men and women throwing their lives away for a town full of ingrates who begged them to help when Throckmorton was around, then double-crossed the Law Dogs and strung them up afterwards. A few years later, he did something about it. He started up the Templars in Boise, Idaho. Simon calls himself the Grand Master, and he managed to recruit a bunch of others he felt was worthy of wearing the white shirt and red cross of the old knights. God must love him, because Templars can heal like the preachers learned to do back in our time. Templars also make their own swords that can cut through a zombie like a hot knife through butter. In some ways, Templars are a lot like the Law Dogs. They travel around in the West, protecting the innocent, healing the sick, and all the other hero stuff. The difference is they don't just throw their lives away just like anyone. If a town is in danger of being overrun by raiders, a Templar might disguise himself and listen to the folks to see if they're worthy of saving. If they are, the Templar will whip off his disguise and show them their uniform and sword. If the Templars don't deem your sorry hide worth the sacrifice, they'll keep right on going and you never even knew they were there. Once they're committed, though, Templars fight to the death. One other thing I heard about them, it ain't easy to become a Templar, and those that betray the rest are in for a sorry fate. Alright, next we're on the Doomsayers. Templars are a stingy lot. The Law Dogs are few and far in between. Neither one of them has much to do with mutants poisoned by that radiation stuff I told you about. Most of the time, it just makes them sick, and ugly as sin. But a lot go local as well. Most of them get thrown out of the nearest towns full of norms. Most of them get thrown out of towns full of norms and live in the nearest rat-infested ruins with other mutants. Law Dogs and Templars don't go out of their way to defend muties, but there is a group who does. They call themselves Doomsayers. If you can believe it, these loonies actually think the apocalypse was a good thing. Their leaders are a crockpot named Silas Rasmussen, I guess. He preaches mutants are the next evolution of mankind and the cult of Doom's job to protect them. The way they do it is to whip up muties into armies and then lead them against norms. The muties are tough enough, but Doomsayers got radiation magic. They used to blow stuff up and make norms into deranged muties as well. Fortunately, some of the Doomsayers have turned against Silas. You'll know them by their purple robes. These heretics run around healing and helping folks to prove the cult is good. It's just Silas who's all wrong. They still believe norms are doomed. That's where they get their name, but they ain't our enemies. Oh, and they're looking for one particular mutant they call the Harbinger. That one's supposed to replace Silas and lead us all the way to the New Age. God, I hope they're right, because this one stinks. Next up, Junkers and Ghost Rock. Well, I'm talking about all these weird types, I might as well mention the Junkers. You might already know them, how mad scientists back in our time made all those crazy gadgets. They thought they was geniuses. Hell, I'm sure they were, but their ideas didn't come without help from madness. Of course, most of the mad scientists didn't know didn't know it and would have laughed at you if you said so. I'm just guessing that the next part, so I could be wrong, but I think once those ghost rock bombs got built, the madness stopped volunteering information. It took a while for the mad scientists to realize their muse was gone. Before they could do much about it, most of them died when the bombs fell. But there was always the few that survived. Those who did couldn't deny there were spooks in the world when the Reckoners appeared and started stomping on folks like ants. Once that happened, the old mad scientist started looking for new ways to make his madness talk again. Only this time they had to beat the truth out of little buggers, and I hope it hurts them like hell. You'll see these old codgers poking through ruins looking for parts for their gizmos. That's why folks call them junkers. You could tell a junker from some other fellow because they power all their gadgets with these things called spirit batteries. They take ghost rock and do something to it to draw it out. The madness side, I don't know this for sure, but I think they run the little bastards like rats in a wheel and suck off their juice till they escape. I can't really explain it, but it does my heart good to think those demons suffering like that. The downside of messing with evil spirits is folks tend to shy away from you. Everyone knows junkers mess with demons, the same ones that ended the world, so they don't make friends too easy. Still, if we can round a few of them up and get them to help out, their gizmos ought to help us put down more than a few of the Reckoners critters. Oh, and the junkers ain't the only ones who use ghost rock. Folks use it to light their homes, power their buggies, and so on. So there's still a fortune to be made in mining it. And if you can radiate it, it can even run them big old tanks and even flying machines. Holy shit, how much longer is this? Hold on, I'm going to check this. Alright, we're almost done. We're like on the last 2 pages. Alright. The Wasted West. You remember how the epitaph used to call home the Weird West? Now I reckon folks call it the Wasted West. Shame, ain't it? You'll see why when we get moving. I'm anxious to see more of it myself. I've heard a few things about some of our old haunts, and that I just got to see for myself. Let me tell you about a few. The maze. I reckon all the fighting in the maze darn near emptied it out during the war, but folks have moved back in since then. Yep, they're still after Ghost Rock. Only trouble comes from all the monsters. 200 years of fighting and a Deadland to boot makes the whole lot of evil. I hear parts of it were overrun with some kind of bizarre fish folk. The doomsayers say that they're mutants, but the stories I hear make them sound like monsters to me. You might remember the Mormons set up their own country. Oh, this is the Deseret, by the way. You might remember the Mormons set up their own country, Deseret, back in the day. They must have held on to it because it still exists. They ran off Hellstrom before the last war started, but I reckon he left some kind of shield in place to protect his home and factories, because the bombs hit all around the city of Gloom, but didn't go off. Unfortunately for the Mormons, they didn't know about Hellstrom's shield, or they could have gathered up the flock. Only a quarter or so of those who lived in the city when the bombs fell were of the faith. Now Salt Lake City is about the only city left, in the West at least, and you can bet it got walls, and a whole lot of armed folk keeping out all those who want in. Denver. It ain't a surprise that Hellstrom had the same kind of shield in place over his factories in Denver. There might have been some folks survive there too, but now they're all slaves of General Throckmorton and his automations. No one gets within a couple 100 miles of Denver these days. The Indians. I ain't been able to figure out what happened to the Coyote Confederation yet. The folks I've talked to look at me like I'm crazy when I ask about them. Yeah, it may be a little crazy, but 200 years in hell can do that to a man. Now shut up and let me talk. The Soiks I knew about, they split into a long time ago. Half stuck that the old business that was going around back in our day, they fared pretty well. I guess it wasn't worth dropping bombs on a bunch of buffalo herds and teepees that move around constantly anyways. They're getting by just like they always have, saying we told you so to the rest of us. The other half of the Swigs call themselves Ravenites. I can tell you how scary that is. I reckon Raven and reckon Raven, the damn shaman that started the whole reckoning mess, started some kind of movement that got all the young braves to forget the old ways. It was good for 'em for a while, caused the Ravenites to take over Deadwood and control the rich ghost rock mines in the Black Hills. Deadwood was big. Deadwood was big here. It had a mess of saloons, casinos, and arms factories. In the end, the city was valuable enough to get blasted back to the Stone Age with everyone else. The Ravenites who survived learned a hard lesson, but they still couldn't stand their southern brothers thumbing their noses at them. Oops, just moved my microphone. Stone. We're being watched. I can feel something's beady eyes boring on the back of my neck. We'd best get out of here soon, so I'll stop with the lecture and get to the big story. This is the strangest part yet. While I was in the hunting grounds, I ran into a spirit of an old shaman who told me the world was not right. I already knew that, but something about the way he said it made me listen. He took me to a strange path made of black rocks cut right through the land itself. He said it was the path of stone, and that it was a bridge of my time and another. I said whoopee and hopped in, but he told me it was not the path of stone. It was the path of stone. Confused? So I was. Then he explained it. The shaman said the whole world had been betrayed by two men. One was Raven, the other was a dead man named Stone. Right? He's hard like you, only according to the shaman. This one's so mean and his Mantu gets nightmares. Stone was from our time, and he survived all those years in the future. But here's the real shocker. We won. Me and my stiffs never returned, but enough heroes on Earth fought back against the Reckoners they all but dried up and died. Then those sons of bitches cheated. They sent Stone into the hunting grounds and gave him power to rip through to time itself. They can't do it again, I'm told, but once it was enough. Stone went back to our time and started hunting down heroes. Everyone he killed meant some horror continued to live. The Reckoners grew more powerful. Hellstrom built his bombs and the whole thing went boom in 2081. This time, the Reckoners won. I ain't afraid to admit I bawled like a baby. What with wandering and fighting all the time, just to find out we'd lost. When I finally came around to that old shaman was gone. I knew I had to go back and warn someone so we could stop Stone and change things again, but I didn't know which way to go. Only that damn path. As you can guess, I chose poorly and ended up here. It's already taken me one hell of a month to figure out what has happened here, and it'll take me a few more to dig up the rest of your kind. Once I do, I'm going to find a way back to the hunting grounds, but I ain't doing it without someone to guide me this time. I ain't wandering around hell for 200 years again. Our job. That's why I'm digging you up now, Ranger. I figure someone as mean as Stone and as powerful as the Reckoners won't let just anyone slip back and forth between worlds, so I might not make it back. If I don't, you and the others gotta fight the good fight here. I know it seems like a lost cause, but there's a lot of folks still suffering here, and you got power to save a whole mess of them. If you can just keep that demon of yours locked down, you might be able to do good enough to rebuild this blasted place. How? Look around you. Looks like a lot does it. Back in our day, looks a lot like it did back in our day, don't it? There's more rubble, but the desert's the same, and the folks are the same. Sure, they got psychers, doomsayers, Templars, and Junkers. Where we used to have hucksters, priests, and mad scientists, but they all do pretty much do the same thing. The towns also look a lot like they did back in our day. They're apart and pieced together from whatever folks can get their hands on, though maybe a little more metal and gas. The only real difference out here is there's a whole lot more bad guys and hordes of critters. That's okay, though, because the good guys have bigger guns to shoot them with. More importantly, the Reckoners are the same as well. Sure, they're here instead of the hunting grounds, but they still live off everyone else's misery, just like they used to, just like 200 years ago. The Reckoners want to keep things in a constant state of fuss. And just like then, there ain't much government out here to give people security. There's monsters in the waste and gangs of outlaws raping and ravaging everything in their path. It's hell on earth, Buster. And that's just the way the Reckoners want to keep it. And that's why we got to fight back. The way we did back in 1876, the hard way. Only this time there won't be no showdown until we've crippled them first. This means going around and bringing some hope back to folks. That means fighting monsters, saving villages, and rescuing damsels in distress. Yep, hero stuff. Then we gotta tell everyone we meet about it. Spread every last bit of hope as far as it'll go, and maybe, just maybe, we got an advantage this time. Maybe now that the Reckoners are stomping around in flesh, we can kill them. So crawl out of that hole and clean off those old 6 guns. We got work to do. And that is it with the Prospectors story. Next up, we have Chapter 2, Welcome to Hell. And that's actually really quickly. So really quick. So, yeah. So this was a whole, 17 minutes long. Sorry for all that, but you guys really liked the first episode. So I need to put the second episode out. Well, technically it's episode 1, part 2 still. And season 1 is going to be as much Deadlands as I can possibly get. And once I'm done with the whole Deadlands thing, I'm going to move on to a different role-playing game, which you guys are going to tell me what the next season will be about in the comments below so I can get the book or see if I have the book, and then we'll read it. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. Post in the comments what you guys want to see me read about next, and also leave a like on this video. That would be amazing. I think I just blew everybody's eardrums out there, but whatever. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is, as always, Cool Mamma Jamma, and I will see you guys later. Stay cool, Jammas. See ya!